Could have been on like CNN and look what we're doing to this guy.
Oh, yo.
This has got to be his most. So I don't know if you know. This is how the conversation went. I messaged Jessica. I'm like, "Yo, you want to do the podcast tonight?" There's a long sigh of fuck. I might
know.
need. No, it was supposed to be a no, and it's like fuck. I might need to get this guy to do something for me again soon. Joe,
That's
come
the
on.
thing. I actually like shit. I actually asked Shinda to do shit, so I owe him.
Yeah, so
An appearance.
This is a straight abduction. He could be doing Canada Land. He could be doing like all these podcasts that people listen to, but he's here with us.
No, we're like the fourth. What was it? Fourth? We fourth?
No, man. We were like second most.
The end of the year.
Was it fourth? I thought we were higher up. Most listened to Ontario podcast on Ontario politics.
Political podcast.
Political podcast in Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like what 50 listeners.
Yeah.
It's the votes that count.
Yeah, that's
Listen, man. I had 50 people come.
We have the bots and trolls listening as soon as we like embed your name in the tweet. Or sorry, the tags.
Yeah, we're getting more than 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we started? Or are we just shooting the shit? Like what's going on?
We started.
This is how it starts. This is when you know people don't listen to us, right? Is when you catch them off guard. This is like the what? This is how you guys normally start. Oh, no introductions? There are no intros.
Look, man, you, like talking about listening, man. You're lucky I'm fucking even showing up to this thing.
Just talking? What's the show about? It's about nothing. It's about nothing.
Just want these guys to know you got another thing coming, bitch. I'm still around.
All right, so we're joined today by Jaskaran Sandhu.
So now not only do we get banned from India, we're so graced by Jaskaran Sandhu. On the WSO? Yes, on the WSO, joining us.
Are you still?
right.
Do you still actively use the WSO tag when you join? Do your name tags or? Oh, there you go. Sweaters up. All right, official endorsement.
Just so you didn't know.
Yeah.
Just in case you didn't know.
You've probably seen this guy's tweets at some point. This guy's been killing Twitter. His engagements are probably going out the roof right now.
It's so I pulled up my last 7 days. So essentially from today, you know what? Fuck, I'm gonna check right now. What are they?
This guy's looking to get that Elon check by all this. Elon owes him some money.
You probably got ads.
I love Elon Musk.
When we scroll on you on X, probably two ads. There's an ad before your tweet and an ad after your tweet.
So in the last 7 days, I've had over 2 million impressions.
Was it
I think
to
that's
get
good, right?
advertising?
Is that?
Was it? What's the threshold?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't even know. Am I eligible?
Are you Twitter Blue? You're Twitter Blue, right?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll be getting that check, man. Elon's gonna be asking you to add your Stripe account, and you'll make a few $100s from all your shit posts.
Oh
That's
shit!
amazing.
So yeah, congrats.
Yeah, man. 2 million impressions, give or take, about 30,000 profile visits.
You had some.
That's pure investigations right there. 30,000.
Yeah. and then there's 3,500 replies, which about 3,200 are bots.
Yeah. This is why Elon made it that you only get credits for other blue checks for seeing your tweets, not any random account.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
My whole thought process was, okay, I'm not going to block these bots because they're making me money.
Yeah, so like the way
just let them post on it and be like, who cares?
Why not?
Yo, if they're adding engagement, you may as well. But yeah, you've been busy. What's going on right now, man? Just tell us who killed Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Do you know?
Just tell us who did it. Who was the hitman?
It's a classic whodunit. Well, it was the Indian government, man. We knew it was the Indian government. We always did.
Yeah, but Indian government is always the boogeyman, right?
So this is my understanding. I'm only sharing all this because I know no one listens to this show.
I feel like this is one of those ones that's not going to be let out.
Tell your secrets here.
He's going to call it back. He's like, don't put that out.
I'm going to pull a classic Jaskaran. Just call Shinda afterwards. Hey, you got to delete that podcast.
Going out.
This is the real reason he hasn't been on any podcast. A long, long time ago, he recorded podcasts with us. And literally 20 minutes after we finished recording, I get a call saying, hey, Can you just like lose that recording?
The story there was it was about that was during the 2015 election. We were assisting a liberal candidate, and we decided that we shouldn't make ourselves the center of this election. So better off just deleting it.
Oh yeah, that was the context. Still inexcusable. Last
Well,
time. That was the first and only time.
I mean, so what he's trying to say is we're responsible for Trudeau being in power.
right.
We worked hard during that 2015 run. So everything that happened after that is clearly our fault. We
You know what? It was a tough 8 years, but he really turned that ship around.
It's kind of incredible how we literally went from everyone that I knew hating Trudeau to we will never support this guy again to Trudeau's in the mud.
It's like, but like at the end of the day, I love that aspect of our community. Like we can go from hating someone's guts
So
to
fickle.
absolutely loving them, like in a span of like 10 minutes.
Go
Someone's-
fickle, or as Shinda would say,
Some would say
What's
we're
the term?
malleable.
Malleable.
We're malleable. We're a very
Malleable.
malleable community.
Correct
like
term.
putty or
Putty,
Play-Doh.
yes.
No, I think it's very clear. India did it. My understanding is, again, this is not necessarily a secret. Indian government may or may not have hired local gangs who didn't know any better. Just go make a hit, and that's how they did it.
Now,
Right.
for the
So
first
context.
so-
Let's
so
just
you
do
can
the
understand-
context thing. Let's do the context thing. We're talking about Mr. I'm going to say his name properly, Nijjar.
Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Don't mess up the last name.
Careful.
Yeah,
Careful.
a couple people got caught flat-footed on that.
What are party comms doing with this? Oh my god, the last name. Okay, anyways, Mr. Nijjar, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, he was shot. This was 6 months ago.
This was back in
April?
June. Yeah.
Yeah. So, at the time, there was widespread outcry that it was Indian government that did this. Everybody kept their mum as far as the authorities went. They, said they're going to do an investigation. And for Mr. Nijjar, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, he was like outspoken, I guess, champion of a cause. I don't know, Sikh rights, Sikh sovereignty. There goes Robbie. I wasn't very familiar with him, I'll be honest. I only became known of his his views and his position after his death, unfortunately. But a lot of people out west knew him for sure. He was a big voice, big in the community out there. So yeah, after all this, it went silent for a while, and last week, JT, our boy, came out with an explosive allegation in Parliament where he said foreign interference, India, bang bang, shit went down, and here we are.
Okay, so one thing I'm curious about, is this bigger than the genocide bill, like calling 84 a genocide?
I was talking to someone who said this is probably one of the biggest Sikh events in modern history. Because, like, for the first time, it's really put our issues like in the center of like global politics in a way that it wasn't before. So like even like 1984 was always seen like by the West as like an India problem. And like that problem is India's, they can deal with it. We're not going to comment. We're not going to do much. And if anything, we'll just aid and abet India. Difference with what we're experiencing today is that this is not being seen as just like a unique India problem. It is a global problem. It's a Canadian problem. Like the West feels like they have skin in the game now. It's elevated the issue of like Sikh advocacy in general, Khalistan, and then like Sikh India relations to a whole new level. Like, so if you go and search up like Google Trends, it's literally hockey stick. If you search up like Khalistan, like references to Khalistan, it's literally like this for like 10, 15 years, and then just boom. And so like you're having a lot more people outside of the community engage with it. So it really is huge. Like it's absolutely bonkers. And it like
But
what I'm curious about is like what's going on in the other countries. Like what's America really saying behind closed doors? Like what is the UK saying behind closed doors? Like what's Australia doing behind closed doors? What are the Five Eyes doing? Like that's where it's getting really interesting. And my understanding is that we're only looking at the tip of the iceberg. Like this is actually like the evidence, the intel is actually far greater than what we think it is. So if more things start coming out, like how does that completely elevate and change this? And we're talking about weeks and months. Like this is not a story that's going to finish tomorrow. There's so much coming down the pipeline. Like we don't even know the impact yet. That's how wide it is.
you know what my fear is? Like this isn't the first time that conflict has hit Canadian shores. I mean, I'll go back to Air India. There was a Canadian impact when that happened, right? And that was big in Parliament. That led to big investigations, long investigations. That wasn't, they weren't 100% transparent with Canadians about the outcome of that. But we know that a lot happened, but it died eventually, right? I guess the difference here is, I mean, this time the government's involvement is brought to light. Back then, it was about the local actors, and it was a community pushing the government's role in it. And it doesn't look clear if Canada ever really considered it or if they considered it fully. But in that sense, it's different. But it isn't the first time, right? Like, so my fear is like, do we just talk about this and it dies off in an investigation, turns into like a geopolitical diplomatic balancing act, and is just a way of like reining India in because they're cozy with Russia? Is that what's happening, or is it actually like improving or better for us? Like as far as bringing a highlight to the issue.
Is this just like a great game, and picks are just like a piece on the board, like for bigger like Western interests?
Yeah, and we get the carry, like we get carried along, and that's fine because there should be due spotlight, and it hasn't ever been there, but it could simply be just a way of, and look, all the pundits are weighing on this too. It's not like, it's a revelation. India is a major superpower. Everybody wants to trade with them. Everybody needs to,
But like
I mean,
here's my
trading.
counter. Like here's my counter with that, Brian. Like it's not just that the West needs India. India needs the West. Every single day, like China's eating up a little bit more territory in India. Like every day there's scuffles at the border. China's a far superior military than India. China's economy is like magnitudes bigger than India. Its technology is magnitudes better than India. And so even if you just look strategically like around the world, like China's really cornering India in a lot of different ways. India needs the West. As much as we like to talk about the West needing India. And so yeah, like look, again, we're speculating. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the end, what way this is going to go. If this is just like posturing on the part of America and other countries to try to leverage out more things from India, or is this actually going to sincerely like change the way the world sees India? Like that has like we have to see how that plays out. Obviously, we have a position on that.
Yeah.
We want to see how the world deals with India very differently.
I mean, isn't it kind of? I mean, hasn't this kind of happened before with the whole Saudi thing with MBS and Khashoggi, and wasn't that done on U.S. shores as well? I mean, we've seen this. It's a big deal for a little while, and it kind of just disappears.
They send it back to the back rooms. I'm curious, like what the thing Reggie was saying was, is this just another piece? Because the way I saw it was, I feel like very much we're being leveraged here, which is fine in so much that we like seeing India get spanked. And I feel like that's kind of what my sense of this whole thing is India did cozy up a little bit to Russia. They were a little bit, we're not going to choose, NATO's side in this war with Ukraine stuff. We're open to working with Russia. And at the same time, they're beefing with China. So the West has them, they're able to pinch them on this. Because it's not like India can go back to China saying, hey, China, can you help us out here? Who do they got? They got Russia maybe to like back them up internationally in the UN on this? Like,
what's the new thing they formed? The new currency thing? Brazil, Russia, India.
BRICS, they didn't get off the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I mean,
China didn't even attend, so it was kind of a black eye.
so I do feel like there is a little bit of let's put India in its place in where they belong in the world power, which side they want to be on. Because if you want to be against us, well, here's a little bit of that heat. Let's put that burner on just so you can feel what it would feel like. And it just feels like we're at the point where we're just kind of that mention of what's going on, but we're not cared about as much as we think we are by Canada or America or even the UK. It's just kind of like, yeah, let's take these. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, traditionally speaking, India has been like a non-aligned country in the global arena, right? Like they don't necessarily take one side or the other. Like they're happy playing with the U.S. as much, like they're happy playing with the Soviets. Like they're happy playing with Russia. They're happy play with America. They'll do whatever is in their best interest. Like that's how they typically have operated as just like a non-aligned power.
That's actually the foreign policy.
Like it is.
Was it the foreign policy?
That's their doctrine. Like it's been their doctrine since like Nehru, right? So I think what the West was hoping is that non-alignment breaks more heavily towards the West now because of China. But like India's made it clear, like they're not gonna turn their back on Russia. So I for the West, it's like, hey man, like India is not like a actually consistent, stable partner. I think the West knows that. The assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, obviously for our community, it's the impact and the meaning is very deep. But maybe it is. Maybe it's the case. For the West, it's just, hey, like this is a geopolitical play. So we can rein in India a little bit. But it can go either way. Like India's response to this has been like absolutely juvenile and petty.
It's so funny.
Like it's deeply insecure. It's like we can laugh at it, but like talk to people that only consume Indian media. Their view of what's happening is so fucking warped. It's almost disturbing, like how warped it is. It's just like that's all India cares about. Like they only care about the domestic play. How much would they actually care about how the rest of the world sees them? Is traditionally speaking, I think, and India is very insecure how it's received in the world. Like it wants to be seen as this great democracy and like this great place. It's not how the world is looking at it right now. Like people that are actually watching. So at what point does it break? Like domestic play and their foreign play? Like at what point does that like stop converging? They get worried about one over the other. India does have election next year as well, and Modi likes playing the I'm the strong man card, right? Like he plays that domestically, and maybe we'll start playing it internationally. But at a certain point, like if you want to pretend you're a great democracy, like in the eyes of the West, that is getting harmed by how they're currently playing the cards that have been dealt. Again, because they assassinated a Canadian on Canadian soil.
But
Now, go ahead.
Look, first of all, Shinde, I'm gonna clarify. I don't care to see India get smacked. All right, I'm Vande Mataram bitches. That's what they say, right? I'm Team Vande Mataram. I don't know. Anyways, I'm joking.
So Ranjit and I look alike, but like after our politics don't align. I just want to make it clear for like the Panthik viewers you have that I am not Ranjit. Like we're not the same people. Make sure my name is showing up above my videos so people don't confuse the two of us.
Yes,
it feels like a classic. The Indian news show where you have the two opposite guys just yelling at each other, but they all look the same.
Dude, why don't we get that? You ever watch the way these guys yell at each other? I was watching the one clip with the Shamsher and the BJP guy.
The thing was hilarious. That guy said it deadpan serious. It was straight up. Trudeau was like, jacked and in his hotel room for 2 days, and the plane thing was, oh man, that was so funny.
I feel like when True North or Rebel News watch these clips coming out of India, they're just, one, I think they're in awe, two, I think they're a little bit jealous, and three, I think even they say, this is a bit much. Can you really just get away with saying that? How? Like, the way it's like sensationalized is amazing. I think it's entertaining.
The very next day, my friends from Delhi, they're like, yo, is there like straight up beef right now after this Trudeau thing? Like, are Hindus and Sikhs fighting in the streets? So I was like, I don't know, man, but my Guju neighbor brought me dokla, so that was pretty dope. It's not what they're fucking painting over there.
Yeah, they're painting it as if it's like a war zone out here. And that, like, Trudeau's playing vote bank politics. And that's all this is. And
he really wants the 4 seats from Brampton.
Canada. Yeah, that he already has. And elections, and so I was explaining this to like a reporter, and they're just like, "Yeah, okay, so what do you think about this vote bank politics claim?" It was an Indian reporter. I'm like, guys, like the election's two years from now. Any bump this guy was gonna get is gonna dissipate like in 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Like you don't play vote bank politics with like 2 years out. You do this shit when there's an election around the corner. Like Trudeau's not calling shit until 2025. I think that's very clear. Like the way that everything else is going, like economically, I don't think you're not calling an election. Jagmeet's not going to force an election. So like for the next 2 years, like this whole vote bank politics thing you guys are saying is just absolutely ridiculous. And why would you risk the ridicule that would come if you were dead wrong about this? Going up in parliament, saying all that. If you get it wrong, like you're a pariah on the international stage for the rest of your political career. Like no one's trusting you with anything. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Like yeah, well, Indian media is not about making sense. It's just literally the fact that you guys aren't cutting me off and shouting at me as I'm talking. Like the opposite of like India media.
I really want to. I might actually start that. I might actually have to start yelling just to get our viewers up, right?
Just some graphics, just air horns or some shit.
Show you fire graphics behind us.
Jaskaran, no, listen to me. What I'm answered my question. This is a perfect.
I'm not listening. I already answered. I'm not listening.
I want to put a question out there. Banu, like he's a plant, right?
I need to talk to
my policy.
He's a plant, right? I mean, I've never seen him in Canada. I've never seen him on a Gurdwara stage.
He's been in Canada. Like
he's been in Canada.
I've never seen him live. I'm saying I've never seen him live. I don't know when
he was at the Toronto referendum, I believe.
At the referendum, he was there at Surrey. Look, man, I think a good policy is you don't line or attack other Sikh actors and activists.
You're claiming him.
And no. I'm not claiming anyone.
He's taking India's foreign policy on this. He's taking India's foreign policy on this and saying, I'm not gonna go left or right.
These conversations, we'll have a difference of opinion on how to operate. And those conversations on our differences don't happen on Discord.
So what Jaskaran saying is, Kardigala. We'll take that offline. That's not a conversation you have publicly.
That's fine.
Look, people criticize WSO. Like people criticize me.
Yeah.
No, but
I mean,
I can't believe.
Listen. At the same time, I can't believe we have 3 Monday friggin' taking on press for the entire month right now. You know what I mean? It's by far.
Who are the 3 Monday?
Ranjit's. What do you mean, Ranjit's not taking on anybody?
No, that has been one of the criticisms you've been getting a lot. Not a lot, but like. That's one of the biggest trolls that you get.
Comment. That's like that's Gopi, you know, that's Gopi Rai, and his burner accounts attacking me.
Fair enough.
That's my theory.
I'll say this though, on the Pannu thing that you mentioned, he definitely says things that make any sort of momentum we get very hard. It's like we're not violent, and then he'll say something like, kill all these, and he's like, I mean, you know, metaphorically, or like.
Anyways,
like to shit this point, is it the communication style I would employ? No. Like, do I believe or do I align with everything he says? No. It's just like, you know, sometimes the momentum, the whole country is with you. And then you say something so stupid. All you can do is shake your head and be like, you know, what are you doing?
What's the thought process behind here?
Yeah, what's the thinking behind that? Like, what was your strategy? What's the greater play here?
There is none. That's the point.
I mean, I'm going to go far back. Not even now. Remember when right after the referendum and after Hardeep Singh's death or assassination, they put up posters for the referendum 2.0, and they put up giant posters all over the GTA with the big word assassinate and AK pencil going through the AK, trying to symbolize, you know, we're using the pencil, not the AK, and destroying their gun, I guess. But the words assassinate, and they had pictures of the friggin' consulate diplomats or whatever, the ambassadors, and it had to that one even got politicians saying, listen, you might need to reconsider these big posters you put up all over the friggin' city. because they send very mixed messages right now. Like things like that, I think just
Who really
aren't.
likes this stuff? I always wonder. Like, there must be a group of them sitting around. Like, that's a good idea. And there must be one person in the group guy saying, I don't know, guys.
More
There's
explosions.
people,
More explosions.
the people involved, the people involved with SFJ, for example, very sincere, and truly believe in their mission. I'm like, you can put aside Pannu, right? Talk about like the people that I know that are involved on the ground that I've come across, have always come across to me as like they truly believe the cause that they're fighting for. Now, I never met Pannu. I've actually never talked to Pannu. I don't know him. Never engaged him, so I don't know what his thinking is and why he chooses to do the things he chooses to do. I would just be speculating, just like well, I guess that's what this show is. But like I would just be speculating. Anything beyond that, like I just don't know. I will say this though, like the Khalistan referendum, even if it's like just as like this, just as this project to show or prove whether or not communities' feelings about this issue are fringe or mainstream, it's been very good to dispel this whole notion that it's like Khalistan as a topic in the community is very fringe.
100% agree with you on that, because I was very critical about that. Because I was very skeptical. Let's use the right words. I was very skeptical about what these would accomplish. But then you said, hey, listen, at the very least, when you have 100,000 people showing up, when you have like 5-hour lineups wrapping around blocks, you can't have Terry Molesky saying, only 10 people in the community actually care about this and they're very vocal. No, bitch, you got friggin' mile-long ass shit. People wanting to say that we're down with it. And not even in Canada. You have people in Brampton. You have people in Surrey. People in Australia. Everywhere that they've done this.
Sir, they could have voted. They could have gone to vote no. Respectfully, sir, I disagree.
Let me just say this. It's probably 99% to 1.
Raji would vote no.
I'm just saying, you can't have these dumbasses like Terry Glavin or whatever saying, hey, no one in the community actually supports it when 99% of the people, came out and said, yeah, we're down. Like,
that's what people used to say. Like, that's what Terry used to say. Like, both Terrys. That's what everyone used to say. Like, if you notice, they don't say that anymore.
Dumbass bitches,
say, okay,
man. Fuck.
They'll say, okay, in the diaspora, people care about, but no one cares about it in India. Like, okay, that's a separate conversation, like what's going on in India. But like the Khalistan referendum, like if not anything else, what it did really well is prove that this is not a fringe thing in our community. Getting 100,000 people out to something is insane. That's crazy. And so you can't dismiss it anymore. Like they've done an excellent job on proving that. I think where you get pushback from the community is some of the messaging that comes out, like especially this thing like all Hindus go back to India, like that was ridiculous. Like that's wrong. Like what are you saying? Like that kind of stuff. Like the community as a whole has been pretty clear in that like don't say that. Like that's just inappropriate. Like that like hurts the mission. And it hurts like greater sick causes, like not even just at the Khalistan issue, like other sick causes get harmed when you use language like that. And so, but like again, like to the earlier point that I made, I never met the man. I don't know what his thinking is. I don't know what the strategy is. I don't know what's happening in like their backroom strategy sessions. I don't know what it is when they do put stuff out like that. Other than like the impact it's had is to deflate a lot of the goodwill that we had generated immediately after Trudeau's announcement that this is a serious Canadian problem.
But the counter argument for their side would be, we're the reason anyone's talking about this at all. If we left it out to any other organization in Canada, you guys weren't talking about Khalistan to the same degree that we are now. None of you guys,
That's a fair position. I think that's a totally fair position. Like we wouldn't be having these conversations if they didn't have a referendum. But like, I guess the point is like the referendums in of themselves achieve the goal.
And in my opinion, for someone who was critical of them, I think they ended up being pretty positive in the, at the very least in the PR sense, that there's people involved, makes politicians a little bit more comfortable taking on that position of, okay, we're not going to be isolating ourselves within their community if we take on, say, some of these things. There is a community backing and support for this. So we're not just ostracizing ourselves by taking on this very small community issue. So I think for the most part, I was proven wrong on it. I thought,
As someone who's very critical about it, I will admit that it was a positive overall for like the PR behind the whole Khalistan issue and us in Canada and what our thoughts and opinion is. But the only real beef I had with it was if there was anybody being misled that this can actually have a policy impact dependent solely on the vote, like that was just leading people and crushing their hope later on. Like it was just a PR battle. That's all it really
What
was.
was the point you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just take. People actually said you could take this to the UN and they have to do something about it. I was like, come on, guys, no. But people really didn't believe that. That was the part. It was like kind of misleading and crazy. That part of it was nuts.
I think for a lot of folks that I've spoken to that really support this, I think for a lot of people, they would agree that the main outcome is to prove that it's not a fringe concept in the community. And you talk to a lot of people that are very supportive of the referendum or have supported and helped it out. They'll all say this is a consensus. Like everyone will say the number one goal was to prove that it's not a fringe idea in the community. Like any other benefit that comes out of it, they know is just like it's just a bonus. If they're able to go to the UN and say, look, X amount of people voted for this. This requires some serious consideration. The UN are going to do something with a non-binding vote. I don't know. I don't know if there's any precedent for that. I don't think there's any history for that. But at the same time, there's no precedent for like these referendums either. I can't think of another example of from any other community where this was done and done to the scale that it's being done. I actually don't know what the outcome is.
but it's agitating, right? It's reminds me of that.
Yeah, like it's working.
It's like that intro from that Kanye West song, though.
It's an agitator. Right? I mean, you've nailed it on the head. It's not going to result in any kind of.
It gets the people going.
Whatever the outcome. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it pisses people off, right? I mean, and it worked.
Like,
Sometimes you just gotta rattle
right?
the nest a little bit, right? No, like maybe everyone is just, you gotta shake that hornet's nest just a bit.
When I was younger, like in like the six spaces, I used to be like to a fault critical of like how people did other things, right? Like I used to be critical of it. I think something that has changed over the last few years is that like everyone has a role to play. There's no one right way to like advocate on sick causes. Like everyone has value add, and the referendum, yeah, like fine, it's a great agitator, fine. Like again, it's proven something very critical and something we had very great difficulty like empirically proving before. Like it's provided a data set that we've never, like an empirical, like easy to hold up and show to just a layman, like data set. Like we never had that before. And I think that most people are appreciative of the referendum. Even critics, like even people that were skeptical, all say
that's fair.
That was crazy.
That's fair.
Where the criticism still gets leveled against SFJ is like, again, like some of the communication decisions they make after they have the big win and they have all the momentum, and then it deflates everything. That's where the criticism comes. I don't know what this thinking is, other than, well, we got to keep moving and keep, to this point, we got to get the people going. And if that's all it is, not the way I would do it, but
kind of wanting to move off like SFJ. Like I feel like but let's go back a little bit to the Trudeau thing. That grand announcement. All parties stood up and we're kind of like, okay, yeah, something happened. But then we saw sick MPs who for the longest time, including the India trip, were very mum on sick issues and on anything that happened. Like even during Hardeep Singh's assassination and like the post, a lot of MPs wouldn't comment on that, just saying, hey, something bad happened. We understand that people are concerned about their safety. We'll look into it. It's a public safety issue more than anything. But that was kind of the extent of the comms. Like, Sarai and Dhaliwal in Surrey, they met with the community there, and they kind of got yelled at for like, why aren't you guys calling out India on this? Come on, you know what's happening here. And they were just like, listen, well, we're on it. Because they're at that time before Nijjar got assassinated, there was that whole, CSIS contacted them. He went on stage, said, listen, there have been calls on my safety. I've been contacted by CSIS and, government agencies to maybe tone it down or go low key, but I'm not going to. And when that happened, there was very much like, listen, you guys know what's going on. You guys have this intel. Why aren't
and
you?
even before him, Mr. Malik as well, right? Like,
yeah. And now it's coming out, like when they were reading, and this is another weird thing that we'll touch on, is now that we're reading articles in the Washington Post, we're getting more information on just what the risk and threat was.
American media is kicking Canada media's ass. Like, it's not even close. American media has been so much better at this. Like,
This is after he's gone on CNN.
BBC, CNN, whole different league, guys. Whole different league. Anyone who's going on those shows, they obviously know what they're talking about. That's what I've witnessed.
It's like CBC who? What CBC?
Why do I want to be interviewed by Natasha Fatah? Like, why the fuck would I want to do that to myself?
And now this guy needs an agent, eh?
Yeah.
But yeah,
if I had an agent, I never would have been on this show. Like, I wouldn't have come.
This is the real push to get an agent, is to protect him from these kind of offers. But what is going on? Why are we getting more information from the Washington Post, the New York Times, than we ever did from anything local? We had the Globe and Mail was kind of the one who broke the story, but kind of who also took it sideways.
Even when Globe and Mail broke it, like if you read their article that broke it, it was very little of substance in there, other than like, had a piece of information that other journalists had, by the way. Everyone respected that an investigation ongoing, and RCMP and intelligence have said, guys, don't run with anything. You might put this in jeopardy. Everyone just shut up and play ball, and when the time comes, the time comes. But Global Mail just ran with it. Actually kind of fucked this all up. Then Global Mail's the one that's critical afterwards and saying, oh, Trudeau doesn't know what he's doing. It's like, you motherfuckers are the ones who put us in this goddamn position to begin with. Like, for God's sakes. The reality is that American media has been so much better. I don't know if it's just they have more resources.
Well, I think it helps when your country's the source of the information to Canada.
And maybe that's what it is, right? Like, they just have like American intel officers like telling them what's going on. I think also like part of it is Canadian media, first of all, doesn't understand how to do international stories as effectively. Like, there's really good reporters. I'm not going to we're not dissing all of them, but like as a whole, not very good at telling international stories. And this is not just a Canada story. This is an international story. Right? The scale is very different. The other part is Canadian media is coming in with a lot of biases, right? Like there's a ton of bias against the Sikh community in general that have just been layered in, like from Trudeau's first trip, from history from beforehand. They just don't know how to navigate the community, and I think it's because there's too many mental blocks that they have when trying to talk about the community. You have reporters that are just, some would suggest, are just compromised or have agenda or just not very friendly to the Sikh community. Like, we can talk about Terry Miliski and Terry Glavin like all day.
Yeah, but those are paid ads, right?
Yeah, like we can talk about Kim Bolan, just like how terrible she is at reporting on community issues, even like on in like her crime and gang beat. We can talk about Natasha Fatah, Tariq Fatah's daughter. Like, Tariq Fatah needs no introduction to our community. That guy was fucking like a single hand source of like disinformation, to the point where like a disinformation network tried to hire Tariq Fatah to be a journalist on their disinformation news websites. Right? Like, all that shit's recorded and reported. Like, this is not like shit we're just making up. But then you have like Natasha Fatah bringing on
Arya.
Arya, Rupa, like agents of disinformation, like legitimate agents of disinformation, to talk about this issue on CBC, like CBC National News. Like America, on the other hand, is coming into this like totally objective.
They're
They don't
still trying to
have.
figure it out. Of
They're just
where
trying to
wanna-
figure it out. They're literally like they're doing research. Like they're not coming in with any kind of biases. They actually don't know anything about anything. So like they're actually researching and they objectively try to get information together. They're not lazy. So they're not going back to the same old experts. Like they're trying to find new people to come on and talk to them because they don't have like a 30-year-old Rolodex that they just keep going back to.
There's no Ojal Dosanjh like, hey, let's get Ojal to talk about this
Yeah.
issue.
America, Ojal Dosanjh, like who the fuck are you, right? Like Terry Molesky, like you look bad-eye insane, like fucking on these channels, like yelling into a screen with a bunch of like brown dudes, right? Like America looks at these people and like, fuck are you people? And then they're like, oh, Jaskaran Sandhu, like that guy looks fucking wicked. Like we should bring him on more often. No, but like then there's the other side of it, right? Like so they're coming objectively. Then there's another piece, right? Like conservative media in Canada. Like the conservative media landscape hates Trudeau so much, fucking hate that guy so much. They rather take India's side on like on a major affront to our sovereignty just to take a shot at Trudeau. In any other situation that would
I mean,
be treated like
we have
as
Indian
treason.
journalists saying, "Hey, we have nukes. We should use them."
But isn't this? I mean, if you peel it back, aside from all the community issues and so on, forth, shouldn't the journalists and just Canadians' general viewpoint be that a Canadian was killed by a foreign power on Canadian soil, and it doesn't matter what the background his community is, and that's the approach, and that's what the Americans are looking at. That an operation was carried out on one of their citizens, and it is going to have implications. Rather than when you're in Canada, you're seeing all like the background stories, this and that. At the end of it, it doesn't matter what spectrum you're at, or even like the PP and his whole thing. If a Canadian's killed by a foreign power on Canadian soil, it doesn't matter what the story is. That's an issue, and that should be, is it a yes or a no? And if it was a yes, that is a whole nother a news story, if you will, or something that they got to break down, like what the hell's going on.
There's honestly no way I can see, like, the other part of why the U.S. is probably all over this is there's no way they can ignore this. This is an attack on a Canadian in their backyard. I mean, today it's Canada, tomorrow. I mean, there's a lot of advocates in the States as well. I mean, sick advocacy in America sucks, but anyways, there's a lot of them out there. So tomorrow it's them, and let's say, India is so emboldened that tomorrow they do the same thing in the U.S. That can't happen, because as much as people like to say that the West, U.S. and U.K. and Canada, they do these operations in the Middle East or some other country. I mean, those aren't aligned states. I mean, if someone said, "Hey, is Iran an enemy state of the U.S.?" Yeah, it is. Everyone's going to admit to that. But you treating Canada like an enemy state is an attack on, on NATO. It's an attack on the U.S. They have to perceive it that way. I don't see how they can get around that.
But even the narrative, the story is not even presented at a Canadian, right? They always go into the other side of the story, and it's just like, plain and simple, Canadian was killed by a foreign power. And if you take it from that approach, it doesn't matter what side of the government, or even if you hate Trudeau, the story should write itself, right? And it's just funny how the narrative is pointed away from that. And obviously the community issue is huge too, but that's the uproar, right? I mean,
yeah, well, like
Five Eyes and everybody, like, I mean, that's it. Look, we can't be as oblivious. This shit already happens all over the world, and foreign powers get involved, but they got caught, right? So that's
I
the
feel
bigger
like
problem.
more than
Yeah.
anything is a lot of other countries, when they do it, they cover their tracks. India did it so blatantly, they got caught on normal audio chatter. They have the WhatsApp, the States have like the WhatsApp log saying, buddy, we have your SMS messages that you sent in plain text. And, you sent them to our guys who are posing as these gangsters who are actually, intel, like,
Let's probably make a Bollywood movie about how it happened and say, no, it was all fictional.
I'm just saying,
the evidence must be so obvious that it's so hard to ignore that you can't ignore it. I mean, from
probably a
the
movie
stand up, they
already in
say
the
like it
works
has to
that
be
I'm
so
talking about.
obvious, like okay, yeah, we can't ignore this, and that's
Yeah.
all it is. Remember when it's like poisoning by Russia and other like supposed this and that? They're always working out ways, and clearly they have something, and it must be big.
Yeah.
I feel like they have a novel.
They haven't denied it. And they're saying in talks, India hasn't denied it, like within
Yeah,
the
I mean,
government.
What does it lead to? Like sanctions? What does it actually lead to?
I don't know.
Other
I
than
think
bad PR.
before like we talk about like repercussions, just like on
Concessions.
this on the American aspect. I think also like for America, it's if you killed an American citizen, like there would be hell. It didn't matter who did it, there would be hell. And I think Canadians think that way. That if a Canadian citizen has been killed, like there's gonna be hell. You cannot allow another government to take one of your people out, even if you fucking hate them or not. Like it's irrelevant if they're a brown guy or a white guy. Like you can't take out a citizen of your country. Like that sounds a very terrible precedent. And so I think maybe that's part of the thinking as well. When America looks at this, they look at this in a very serious way. Well, I don't know if that's like a cultural difference. I think that's part of the reason why America feels like America's the consensus in America seems very different than it does in Canada.
Yeah, America's the big brother who saw his cousin get a black eye, so now they got to step in. Brampton politics 101.
Yeah. He's
Well,
showing
that's what
up.
it feels like.
No, man.
I
I'm
don't
calling my cousin Bunty. He's gonna fuck you up.
No, man. This is Bunty. Like, yo, what the fuck, man? You know who punked you? Let's go deal with them. And you're like, okay. But you're kind of like trigger shy at the same time. It's like, yo, man, I don't know if it was him. It's like, I got video of him doing it. We're gonna go deal with these guys. I need to see you, like, get out there. And Canada's kind of like a little bit, but it's crazy. You said the amount of people that hate Trudeau are willing to like give him they're willing to like shit on Trudeau over this. Like Jordan Peterson is one example of a guy who hates Trudeau more than anyone else that I've seen. That he's saying this is somehow Trudeau's fault that he even let these people in the country, and this is all his fault, and that India's clear on this. It's fine. It's Trudeau's the idiot. Like there's that repainting by conservative talking heads, and he's not even really a conservative talking head. He's the talking head, but it's something that like. Go ahead.
The denominator, like for me, from the other side, it just seems like they're trying to justify it. Like that's always a conversation. They're just trying to justify the killing, and you just listen to like, but it was this and this. I'm like, yeah, but someone died, right? Like it doesn't. At the end of the day, someone got killed, and there's always this justification narrative in their writing or the way they're talking about it, and it's like if a Canadian died, we should look at it like the Americans, right? If it's one of our citizens and we said it's a Canadian, and they were murdered by a foreign power. That's the end of it, full stop. And if it's true, then there's nothing to argue.
I'm going to try something. I'm going to put a question to all of you in an organized fashion. I'm just going to list the leader's name and just give them a grade on how they've handled this so far. Okay. So Trudeau, Cinda, go. A, B, C, D, what? A. Robbie?
A.
Jazz?
A+. I think what Trudeau did like took a lot of guts.
And then how would you
fuck
meet?
it.
Shinde?
A+. This guy, he finally found some footing. I feel like
Yeah, A+.
I feel like this reinvigorated Jagmeet to a point where he's just like, you know what? Finally, my party's not letting me, has been holding me down on saying the word Khalistan. Now I can say it again.
How about PP? Shinde?
Day one response or day two response? Two different.
Just from day one to now. Give him a grade.
Overall,
the same skill
man,
used for Trudeau.
Overall, fucked up F.
Robbie?
D for douchebag.
And Jaskaran, how about you?
On Jagmeet Singh, A+. Like the fact that he gave a speech in Punjabi, like yo, we knew this was happening to us. Like a little like, apne Punjabi bande nu like, wink, like we knew this was already true. So don't worry, I got you guys. Like A+ straight up. Pierre Poilievre, but day one he was good. He did whatever he needed to do in opposition. Day 2 to day 5.
Checked his bank account.
It's like Pierre Miller, what side are you on?
You know what happened? Shove took him in the back room and said, "Listen, buddy, you can't just clap for this shit."
OG.
And and look, I'm no fan of Shove, and I made that very public. But now you're seeing, you saw Jasraj and Tim come out pretty strong. Like Tim
Great
called
today.
like,
They're
this is
out.
by Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Yes.
But why did it take 5 days? Why will
Yes.
So you know what that leads me to believe? That leads me to believe like there was internal party pressure these guys are pushing up against. Like that's what that, like just knowing how partisan party politics works. Tim and Jasraj were up against an apparatus internally that was just uncomfortable pushing more than they already did. So okay. Anyways, the long story short, just because there may be a possibility where this kind of starts churning around, I'll give him a C. Not failing, but he's on the brink of failing.
So does that C represent a word that you want to describe him
No.
with? That you're giving him that
But
C?
I want to bring up a discrete issue that you've raised in what you just said, Jaskaran. It's that you know how partisan politics works, and you know that this likely means that there's an internal party dialogue that they had to fight against. I think it would be fair to say, and we already mentioned that Jimith was probably facing the same thing because now he's emboldened and unabashed and coming out and speaking about Khalistan.
I feel like they finally took the cuffs off
how
him.
he feels, but it's obviously there he had handcuffs on too. The same handcuffs are on the Liberals as well. So knowing that all three parties have the same internal dialogue, more or less, have the same handcuffs, they have the same, like they're worried about optics with India as well, and how India's influence on Canadian elections is probably going to come out later on. But we all think that they influenced it, so they all have the same level playing field there.
I don't think
Knowing
so.
that, I gotta be
I don't
harsh.
agree. I don't agree. I don't
gotta
agree.
be harsh.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
I gotta be harsh, man. I gotta be harsh with PP and the Conservatives. I mean, I love Tim. Tim, a boy, but look, like that party dropped the ball. Like this was a moment. This was a rally cry.
Why do you think he backtracked? Why do you what was the day one? All for it.
Why?
Canadian got killed.
It was a lobby. There we
I
go.
love this guy's
Lobby
internet, but
shit,
I'll be honest. This is why I think he backtracked. I think after the day one, after he went back to caucus, there were people like Shove who were probably like, "Listen, go talk to your big boss." And then Stephen Harper's like, "Yeah, we're kind of cool with Modi. You got to chill. There's other ways we can deal with this."
I always thought that party, because of Harper and his allegiance, was always more aligned with India. Like it was just always there.
Did you see PP's face on that speech when he's like, "I need proof"? He looked like he was being held hostage. He didn't even look like he wanted to say the speech.
But then someone was like,
He's
"Yo,
just standing there. I need proof. I'm gonna ask for proof." He's just standing there as if.
Look, and so I want to play devil's advocate here. In our parliamentary system, the opposition's job is to oppose. It's their job. Like they actually have a duty, like hold the government accountable, and seek accountability from the government. So when I'm saying like you got to give I'm giving Pierre like a C because he turned it around. If he didn't turn it around, like if Tim and Jasraj didn't go up today, I would be saying an F, like straight F. Like there's something wrong. Like it's been a week. What happens is you have day one, Trudeau comes out, and you have obviously the first big day. Everything's kind of crazy. Day two, what happens? Day two is Washington Post puts an article out saying Trudeau tried to get his Western allies to speak up the G20 and to call India out, and the allies all disagreed. That was the next story. And then Global Mail runs a story about allies rebuff Trudeau. And you have Pierre saying, "Oh, we need to see the evidence. Oh, why aren't we talking about China? Like, why are we talking about India?" This like whole like kind of just like biting off the topic at hand. That day, I was like, this is actually like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I can't believe people are just turning their back. The fact that a Canadian was just killed on a Canadian soil. Then what happens is day 3, day 4, you get
the Indian
updated.
response.
Well, you got the Indian response comes out. Right? We knew the Indian response was gonna be fucking crazy anyways. Like I wasn't surprised by that. But then on day 3, day 4, you get news stories coming out of CBC and America saying, no, the Allies didn't rebuff Canada. In fact, they gave intelligence to Canada. At that point, Pierre had a duty to kind of go back and say, we're keeping an eye on details. It looks like there's much more happening here than just Canadian intelligence agencies. It looks like our Five Eye allies have been providing details and all this kind of stuff. yes, we still need to seek accountability. We still need to see the evidence. But yeah, it's unacceptable that a Canadian was killed on Canadian soil. Like some sort of level of reassurance.
I'm just gonna add in that all the leaders already had the same evidence Trudeau had when he made that speech at this point
No,
already.
so they didn't have all.
But Pierre doesn't have
Jagmeet
clearance.
So-
Pierre didn't get clearance.
He didn't take clearance, and supposedly I don't think he took clearance on the China stuff either. Because once you take clearance and you see the evidence, you can't comment on it anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't call out the government. So that's why Pierre is not. I don't think he's taken on the China stuff or the India stuff.
But he doesn't. Then he doesn't want to see the proof. He's just saying he doesn't.
Well, because he wants the ability to criticize. But like our parliamentary system is like designed to. Official opposition's job is to oppose. But at a certain point, though, became troubling. Like when the American evidence came out again on day 3, day 4, when he had a reassurance that this evidence is legit, Pierce too needed a change. The other thing that was fucked up, really upset a lot of people, is when they had the emergency debate, the party definitely kept almost everyone back. I think Scheer was the only guy who spoke. I think Garnett Genis was sat in Parliament as well. But otherwise, the entire caucus was out, including your 2 Sikh MPs. And the frustrating thing there is you have like, what is the story of the century? Like, I don't know what other story is going to be similar to this in our lifetime. This is pretty out there. And
Well, when the nukes fly, that'll be.
well, we're all going to be dead. But Brampton's getting hit first, guys. Like we're gone when that happens. But the reality is like when you have like a story of the century, you're not letting like senior level members of your team freely speak on it. That sends a really bad message to the community. So anyways, my whole story is if you look at the trajectory of all this, he was definitely in F territory. The fact that he allowed his 2 members to go speak, obviously nothing happens without party oversight. Have the 2 parties go and speak and do something about it.
And they reviewed them. They reviewed their messaging before they went out.
Everything gets reviewed. The only thing that doesn't get reviewed, I feel like, is Arya Chandra. They just kind of
Okay, yes, please. I'm glad that you mentioned this friggin'
Wait. I just want to
crackhead.
rebut one thing.
Before we jump to Arya Chandra, I just want to finish my point on this. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are on thin ice, though. The A+ that Jagmeet and Trudeau has is going to take a lot to that get knocked down to like an A or A- and onwards. The C that I'm giving Pierre very quickly become a D and F. Very quickly. It's incredibly thin ice. That's only because I'm giving the benefit of doubt that as the opposition party, it is your job to oppose and hold government accountable. To a certain extent, there's a point where you're just being a contrarian, like you're opposing for the sake of opposing, not because there's like actual accountability that's being sought. And Pierre and the Conservatives are really fucking on thin ice about that.
Well, I mean, him not showing up to that, him as caucus not being there is just clear, just saying he doesn't care. If you're saying that's his those are his obligations, he's playing politics.
And I don't want this.
He's not there to criticize. He's not there to listen.
And I'm saying at that point he was an F. That's what I'm saying. At that point, he was an F.
Yeah.
Like that was it's F-, right? Like it's the worst F you can get. Ours failed. Like it's outright. Like you have to knock you back 2 grades. The only saving grace right now, just Raj, Tim spoke today.
And they killed it.
It's a straight F. And they killed it. Like they actually spoke really well. Like that is, if you look at it, India media, social media right now, it's literally saying if you thought a party change would change the way Canada looks at India, you're wrong. Look, this is the deputy leader. He's a Khalistani. Look at Jasraj. He's a Khalistani. Like their speeches were very strong. And I don't want to knock the Liberals. I have a reputation of just being overly critical of the Liberals. I'm only critical of them because they're the government. The reality is like Suk gave an awesome speech, right? Like, did you hear Suk's speech? He's like, you always banned from India. Like, there's a point where I'm like, you're sharing a lot, man. Like, that's actually like crazy. Like Gahir gave a great speech. Like, a lot of these guys got up and said really great stuff. But again, like the party's on thin ice. Just Raj and Tim are carrying it. Pierce says one thing wrong tomorrow, they're back at F. Like they have no benefit of doubt, zero benefit of doubt, and they need to be held to like a very high level of scrutiny by our community, very high level.
It's an F, man. It's an F for me because you nailed it. Like, actually, there's a couple of things that really should be minimized. A Canadian was killed on Canadian soil by a foreign government. That is 9/11. That is COVID hitting in its earliest days. That is going to war and World War II. That's an attack on our sovereignty. It's an emergency.
I feel like there's a little bit of hyperbole in there, but
Well, no, it's. I mean, come on.
No,
When's the last time a Canadian got killed by a foreign government on Canada?
mean-
That if that's not hostile.
I mean, I wouldn't say
That's
this
not
is
a
our
rally.
9/11. I don't feel like this is our 9/11
Well, let
to that
me
same
put it
degree.
this way. Let me put it this way. When they grounded planes in Canada because something happened in the States, the opposition government wasn't shitting on the government in power about overreacting and acting hasty. They were supporting them and clapping in Parliament, saying they did the right thing and supported their partner. Likewise, you can be a contrarian because that's your role in Parliament, but in certain points where you really got to get behind the people and get behind the bigger picture. And this was the moment for them to do exactly that. They had a moment to show that, fine, whatever our differences are, that we understand the gravity of this situation, that it was a Canadian killed by a foreign government, and a foreign government's acting in our country, in our borders, and we will not allow that. Jagmeet was not candid in his response, in his support, and same with Trudeau. And at the time, Pierre, kudos on him. He showed that support, but to walk it back that quickly, it just shows that you're so bought. And I don't think I can ever get past that, showing how exposed he is more so than the other two parties.
Hold on. Actually, we should actually be disclosing conflicts. Like, Raj, do you have any liberal conflicts you need to disclose? Being hard
Actually,
on.
I've donated to every single party actually in Canada, and I've played golf. I've played golf with every single party member in Canada too.
Who did you play golf with last?
pay for play.
That's right.
A conservative MPP. A conservative MPP is the last person to play golf with.
I feel like
valid points. Like valid points.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I was very happy day one. I was happy at the harmony that Parliament showed on this issue. It was right. It was what should have been done and carried on the whole way through. To walk it back that quick without anything to support it was just a ball drop.
but like talking about walking it back
today a little bit, huh?
But talking about walking it back, we had Liberal MPs saying, "Hey, this Khalistan thing is kind of fucked up." No, like
I mean, I don't even agree with Khalistan, but who cares?
no, but it was a little bit more than that. Like Arya friggin' went on a twit longer. This guy really leveraged his Twitter blue there.
100%.
It's kind of nonsensical because he didn't even break his paragraphs out properly. It was like a very rushed. While Trudeau's giving this, India did this thing. He's like trying to clap this out on his friggin' BlackBerry 9900 somehow.
On that note, Anita
I'm sure
Anand,
CCS is watching everything he
supported the
does.
party line. She towed along with the boss, right? Like
to some degree.
Arya Chandra, I don't know.
I feel like Anita took the first chance she could to distance herself from that statement also.
100% she did. 100%. When she gives that interview, it looks so awkward giving it. She does not want to be there. She does not want to talk.
She must know the truth.
Yeah.
I mean,
She towed the party line. That's all I'm saying. She towed the party line.
way better than Arya did. Like, I'm curious,
Yeah.
why does this guy get so much leeway? Why is his leash so long that he's not kicked out of the caucus for this stuff?
No, he said he went on the news. He was on the news saying, "I'm just a backbencher. Nobody cares about me." So he went on this whole rant that I'm not actually in the government. I'm just a backbencher MP. So.
Yeah. If you look at his Twitter handle, his Twitter page, he's removed all references to the Liberal Party.
And then what's the play? You kick him out for saying, "I don't want any hate or hate crimes to a certain community." Like, what's the reason you kick him out? He's played it smart too. He's played it smart as well, right? You can't touch the guy, right? So
yeah, he's essentially a consulate of India, man, like diplomatic immunity.
Question is, maybe they should look into why he's so.
But this is what drives me crazy about this. Is we see this. It seems like it's the color red. This guy is, Indian consulate. He's their diplomat inside the Liberal Party. Why does no one call this shit out? Like, why is the media okay? Maybe other politicians, maybe other parties are like, yeah, we will have one or two of these guys in our party too. Maybe they're from like Alberta, this, that. But why does the media not say, hold on, this seems a little off? What are your ties to India? What are your foreign interference?
Caught up that foreign interference thing so fast.
So
I just don't understand why the media isn't kind of like scratching their head and saying this is fucked up. Because as me, and I'm probably biased, I think it's kind of fucked up. We have foreign agents or people so sympathetic to foreign causes inside a government.
What's he saying though, right? What's he saying publicly? He's talking about the plight of his community. He's talking about the safety. He's talking about what's he saying that seems so that anyone can go against him. I just don't get it. I just think he's playing it smart.
he raised a RSS flag for Heritage Hindu Month on Parliament Hill.
And he's going to say, well, you guys raise these flags. He can do whatever he wants. It's for his own community. There's people that support his cause.
No,
right?
no one's raising a Khalistan flag
No,
on Parliament Hill for
I'm
Sikh
just
Heritage
saying.
Month. Could you
I've seen a
imagine?
bunch of them.
It's
I'm
one
saying
thing for
what-
people. It's one
Sorry?
thing for people to carry them around. I'm like, this went up the actual official flagpole.
Yeah, that's a bit much, eh?
Arya,
I'm not defending him. I'm just what I'm trying to say is look at his strategy, right? We see him as the villain, and that's how we see
I
him.
guess
But
I'm curious why other people don't question his allegiances, I guess. Remember we had that other guy. Who was that guy from Brampton Center that we got rid of?
Ramesh Sangha.
Ramesh
I wish
Sangha.
he was around. I would
Yeah.
love to see what he was going to do.
Ramesh Sangha, motherfucker, is getting a pension from India while serving in, the Canadian
Wow.
Liberal Caucus.
We don't know this. He's
No,
just
this-
joking. No one can sue us. Boom.
No, but he was a former military for India, and he was hard, an Indian cheerleader during the 2017 India trip.
He gets treated well there.
Still got
He gets
voted
treated
in.
well there.
I'm just saying stuff like this doesn't raise a flag, doesn't raise anyone's eyebrows.
I don't know, man. We just had a standing O for wasn't he a Nazi or something in Parliament? So
he was a Nazi.
Let's get to that right now. But any final thoughts on this Arya guy? Am I the only one who thinks this is batshit
black
crazy?
sheep of that party, man.
I
We just
agree.
can't kick him out.
he's just
This
playing his
guy-
part. Yeah.
This guy has sponsored a petition against the foreign agent registry.
All right. On that note, on Arya's note, everybody support my girl Barb Ball. She's running for the Conservatives in that riding against them. She's married into a Punjabi family. Hardcore Jatti. I give her props for that. Take out Arya.
How can we support a Conservative Party that's been graded F?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'll support Barb. All right, just like I support Tim.
What is
Tim,
this
my boy.
inconsistency?
I can't
What
even
is this
say Tim without
inconsistency?
doing this.
What Randy's trying to say is
Everyone
he's here to change the way that he wants to help that party's grade improve. And the only way for that party's grade to improve is by getting Barb in there and getting her in caucus.
Yes.
It's a teardown, right?
Yeah,
You're
he's talking about
gonna break the
Punjab
team
too,
down.
right?
All right. Now that we've big Trudeau up and said Trudeau's amazing, he's so smart, he's such a brave guy. Why the hell did the Liberals bring a Nazi in to Parliament?
Someone's getting fired.
This is definitely something liberals are gonna have to eat shit on.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this happens.
This feels like a conservative
They could have
plan.
got anybody else. They could have got any other good Ukrainians that didn't have that
No,
skeleton in their
but-
closet there.
Don't even have him there.
I'm watching the memes come. They're the speaker is introducing him. Fought against the Russians in World War II. Oh shit.
I at first when I heard about this, I'm like, okay, so you fight against the Soviets after World War II, or when the Soviets rolled into Ukraine, and as a resistance fighter. No, this guy was a legitimate part of the fucking Nazis.
He was part of the genocidal stuff. He was
He was
part
a
of-
Waffen SS.
He was legit fucking Nazi.
You see him when he was doing this, you know his hand was trying to do that. But he's just trying to rein it right back.
That arthritis kicked in hard. No, man. So what annoyed me about that situation more than other stuff is that it totally shit on this whole India thing,
Yeah.
right?
It was such a
They-
fucking
they-
distraction. Like such a
pulled-
fucking distraction.
Punjabi. They pulled a Punjabi uncle. That's what they did. We had the win, and there you go.
They just start talking about something else completely irrelevant.
They pulled a complete button on this, right? I just don't get it though.
Is that the term? Pulling up on?
Like, where did this calm fail? Because it's been no secret that Ukraine does have a bit of a Nazi problem. It's something that's been criticized by Putin himself to justify this war. It's been something that's the media's really tried not to talk about when they talk about these rebel fighters in
the country
Ukraine.
with a Jewish president and a Muzzy defense minister has a Nazi problem. Come on, man.
Hold on. You're really
You
going to
know
play
Russia
the...
just ate this up, right? Russia's like put it in
like,
propaganda.
yeah,
Like,
you-
look, they're standing up for a Nazi.
Why are you getting in the way of Shinda trying to get a check from Putin, man? Just
No,
let him-
I'm just saying. Friggin' Freeland has a friggin' history degree in Russian history. Like,
Okay, wait, what?
she's...
What?
Freeland, the
Making
deputy
argument
prime
here
minister.
that because you have a Russian
But
history degree that you're a Russian.
all right, get rid of this guy. There we go.
Yeah, you
All
know
of-
what? This is so much better with him just off.
No, but Freeland, whose grandfather wrote, was a Nazi collaborator to a certain end. She knows what's up. It's like,
She knows what's up. It's like how we know like what's up in like Pontic politics.
yeah, she friggin'
You know
got.
what I mean?
She posted a picture on Twitter holding a nationalist Ukrainian scarf that she quickly deleted the tweet and said, "Hey, hide the scarf. Let's redo that pic." We know that. Come on.
Well, she's a Nazi. Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, her,
No,
her grandfather.
her grandfather.
Yeah,
wasn't
exactly.
He wasn't. No, he
We,
was an
we got
edit-
grandparents that were comrades,
he was an editor of a Nazi newspaper. Her grandfather.
and now their kids own trucking businesses and will like not pay their workers, and their grandparents were hardcore socialist comrades. Okay, like come on, we have that in our own community.
I don't
Shinda's
know.
point is not that Shinda's point is not that Freeland is a Nazi. Shinda's point is Freeland knows the politics and like what's actually certain realities on the ground in Ukraine. They
No, that's
have
fair.
Nazi. They have
That's
like
fair.
neo-Nazi regiments. Like they actually have neo-Nazi like militias.
Really, they're good fighters too. Actually,
They're the greatest
But,
fighters. They're the ones who friggin' kept Russia at bay and they took back the cities. Like, all that aside though, they're still Nazis or skinheads or whatever you want to call them, right? And I just feel that Trudeau has an aide, someone, his right hand, who should know better, who should help him navigate this a lot better than was done.
yeah, that's
No
a ball
way,
drop.
there's no way
Ball drop
Freeland
for sure.
didn't know. There's no way Freeland didn't know. I find that hard to believe.
It's been a funny week in the parliament, eh? All the mispronounced names.
How many?
Nazis. A lot of ends. A lot of things to do with the ends.
But yeah,
many
what
N-bombs were
happens?
dropped? I saw two.
I
saw
saw two as well. How do you do that? You have one job.
First
All
off,
you have to do is just say Hardeep Singh. You don't
yeah,
have to say
that's the
last
public
name.
service announcement is don't say the last name. I
An
don't,
esteemed gentleman from BC.
yes, yeah. I don't know. But I'm still like flabbergasted as to how this happens. Like not the name is perhaps, but this Nazi thing, like this is such a distraction. This has caught international media more so than the Khalistan thing. I think this is going to be like that story for the rest of the week.
Because it's
feel
like
like-
basic. It's like basic vetting, man. And then you did. It's not even that he was there. You give a standing ovation. Like
Can't
it
be
is gonna make
Nazi, right? Like, aren't they all like war criminals? Or did he do time?
No idea.
Right?
I
There
don't
must
know.
be something to it. I thought they all have to do time for being war criminals.
I mean, that's how
You
the
don't
Twitter
get
notes. The
the
Twitter
last
notes were
name
pretty, like the Freedom Press, whatever. They kind of laid it out like, yo, this guy isn't just like some haphazard Nazi who kind of had to pick a side in the war. He was down with it. This guy, they were, because I was reading one of the critiques. They're like, look, you had to choose between Hitler or Stalin, and they decided to go with Hitler on this. And we've seen this in our community a little bit, where you saw certain people saying, "Hey, if we could join Germany to go against Britain. We're down to go," and they had like very small little groups that did do that. But this guy doesn't seem like he was in that position where he was just wanted to beat up Russians. That there go chose the Nazis. He seemed like he was a little bit more Nazi-ish.
He actually believed in the cause.
Yeah, he helped write some of the manifestos type level of down with it.
Yeah, but aren't they the Russians are the ones that caused that massive famine, right? Where a lot of Ukrainians died, and they celebrate that genocide, or commemorate that genocide, Holodomor or something like that.
I mean, I have no idea.
I
don't have a PhD in Russian history, so I can't really comment on that. We should bring Vreeland on.
Okay, but we recognize in Canada too, man. It's there like 84. They were starved to death, millions.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was natural hate and inclination back then to probably fight against Russia, even though ethnically kind of similar Slavics, right? They're all Slavics. Anyways, still a ball drop by liberals, 100%.
Does it detract them at all? Are they able to even get back on track with the whole India thing after that?
I think that's more embarrassment than anything else.
Do they fire the speaker?
I don't think they have done it yet. I think part of the problem is also they're not really taking responsibility for it. So the media is asking who's going to take responsibility for this? So they're dragging on this story multiple days because now it's like a whodunit. So now the media is just trying to solve this mystery of who was actually the one responsible for this.
The speaker took credit though, no? The speaker said this is all me, I'm sorry.
Well, no one believes that.
Rightfully so.
It was the speaker reading the introduction, right? The speaker was caught off guard reading the introduction. He actually pauses after he says,
wait a minute.
It's just stops there and looks at it. He's just pauses for a beat. He's like, I guess I'm just, it's sunk cost at this point. I'm way too deep. I have to finish this.
That's
no
funny,
going
right?
back.
What a joke.
I feel like we need to bring our buddy on for this. I need more understanding as to...
I say another quiet person. What happened to your buddy, the Dougler? He's been quiet on everything.
No, Douglas owning it. He took an L. Douglas stood up there. He took responsibility. He said, "Listen, I made a mistake."
The defense came. Look how quick this.
Listen. We didn't see this sort of defense from any liberal. We saw the Douglas say, "Hey, Ontarians. That's such a weird one. I'm sorry, Ontarians. I'm sorry. I messed up."
Liberals just never admitted the mistake because they never made one.
Doug said, "I made a mistake. I'm a big enough man. I don't have, I'm working in the best interest of Ontario. Edit, undo. Let's move on. Let's be grown-ups about this."
This will probably be their gas plant come election time.
Yeah. Whatever. You're allowed to.
So is the highway canceled? Essentially that's...
I hope not.
No. This doesn't fuck the 413 up. This fucks up the land back into the development land that they were trying to find. That's where this.
But wasn't the whole point was that the highway was through and this was being
no. This was for the housing, the houses they wanted to build.
So they're still building a highway through the highway zone.
Yeah. That part's all done. That wasn't affected by this. This was that stuff where they petitioned off land to developers that probably shouldn't have gotten it, and he made a mistake. He trusted people who didn't, do their duties. They went to Vegas and they were hanging out with people that Doug didn't know about. So he's sorry. I accepted his apology. I think you guys should too. We should all be grown-ups about this. We all make mistakes. We don't invite Nazis to parliament type mistakes. This is...
How come no one's questioning who he golfs with now?
I
don't golf. That's the thing. That's the truth. I'm so low level on this chain, but
did people step down?
We've had
people lost 2 ministers and a chief of staff.
It's you lose some pieces on the board.
He's got
3 years. 3 years? 2.5.
Oh, he's good.
He's good. I think bring beer back down to 50 cents and take away some tax on the gas. We're golden. Call it square.
few more Ford Fests, he'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, it's embarrassing for Doug for sure. Is it Nazi level embarrassment? Nah, I feel like he got lucky. This Nazi thing's taking everyone's attention away from him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, 100%.
This is like normally this situation would have been like out of 9 out of 10 in like public outrage, media coverage, the questions being asked. But everyone's just
Can you
like,
imagine
holy
it's like
smokes, there's just so much
strategy
going
room,
on.
Like they're trying to pick a date, like when's the best date to do this, and all these fireworks are going off. Oh, let's just get in there now. Oh, they're dropping N bombs. They're applauding Nazis. Yeah, let's slip it in now.
Like,
Someone made this point on Twitter. They're like, can someone hit the restart button on turn off and turn on the modem of Canada? See if that like if the reboot fixes it a little bit, because it's like it's really nutty.
it's a
They
wild
did
time
get
right
nutty
now.
really quickly, yeah.
It is well timed, man.
Yeah.
Dude, this would have been a 70-minute podcast just on Dougler. But there's been way more pressing things. Like the Nazi thing kind of, you guys glossed over it. This would have normally been a full podcast on Nazis.
Yeah, that's fair.
The amount of stuff that's happening right now in Canada is wild. I don't think Canadian journalists or Canadian newsrooms have enough people covering all the different stories. So they're just trying to figure out which
They're
one
all laid
deserves the
off.
attention. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's a great time to be a podcast. I don't even know what the title of this podcast should be. Like, do we focus on what's going to gravitate more clicks to it? It's just so much friggin' trending right now.
Jaskaran's going to cancel in about 10 minutes, so I don't know what you're getting all worked up about.
I'm going to ask you guys to delete some scenes. Actually, I've been making notes here of what segments I want out.
I've been watching. And we even go touch like what another big thing that's happening in the world is friggin' Star Wars is back, but no one clearly has time for that right now. But
No, that's next week.
Another pod.
yeah. All right, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys coming out. Any closing remarks, closing thoughts?
You know what really bothers me in like some of the interviews I've had and the conversations I've had with folks, and just like reading some of the coverage, is I get asked, or you'll see people talk about, okay, like what's going on with Sikhs in Canada, right? Like what's actually happening? Like what does Sikh advocacy look like in Canada? And completely like ignore the question of like what the fuck is actually going on in India? How fucked up are things in India that they would go into a hit on a citizen of a friendly democracy on their soil? I think they would get away with it. That's a symptom of a bigger fucking problem that's happening in India right now, under this BJP government, under the Hindu nationalist kind of ideology, under you start peeling this a little bit. It's like, man, the level of persecution that's happening in that country, the total collapse of democratic pillars in that country. It is one of the fastest autocratization or democratic black-siding country in the world under like almost every metric. It's disturbing when you actually start looking into it. And so my frustration with media has been, and I started telling this to like reporters that have been reaching out today in particular, like, what are Sikhs doing here? They're utilizing charter rights, and they're talking about an issue that they like. And some will talk about Khalistan, some will talk about human rights issues, some will talk about like the democratic backsliding, some are talking about 1984 Sikh genocide, some are talking about all of them. They're utilizing charter rights. Like no one's ever been able to prove anything beyond that, especially in the last 20, 25 years. Like there's never been anything beyond that. Where the focus needs to be is like what's happening in India. Because someone getting shot and get assassinated the way they did is not how foreign interference starts. Like this is the extreme end of it. And like keep watching the space, because it's probably not the only guy India took out in Canada. Yeah, like people in the community can read between the lines on what's going on there. The fact is, like, India to feel this emboldened to do that, what does that mean for minorities in India? If they're willing to do this in Canada, do you not think they're acting extrajudicially and arbitrarily in India? Like they're not suspending civil liberties and democratic rights in India? Things are really troubling, really troubling. And I think one thing that's just been frustrating me is how our media, and Canada in particular, like the Americans are better at this, like from whatever I've seen, but Canada in particular is so like transfixed with what's happening here. They're not thinking about what's happening there for them to feel confident enough to kill one of ours here. Like that they're willing to export type of hate out into the rest of the world. That's something I'm hopeful like changes like in the coverage as we move forward. We'll see. Canadian media has not impressed me most of the time. I do hope that like Canadian journalists get the sense that America's eating their lunch on this story, and that they up their game a little bit.
Well, if we're assigning blame on the way out, I just want to say the UK has a big ball drop on this too. They suck
Oh,
balls
the
on
UK
this, actually.
sucks. The UK is terrible.
Yeah, and I can't. How does that work? How does a country with that many like Sikhs like suck so bad at lobbying anything?
I think there's the issue in the UK is I think Sikh community is very labor. Like the Tories don't care about the Sikhs. The Tories have made their bed. You know, and the other issue too is like Brexit was a really big fuck up. So they're desperate for a trade deal, more so than I think any other country is. They need to show a win after Brexit. The other problem too is just like from a purely grassroots organizing perspective, it's the Sikh community is associated with labor there in a much bigger way than they are with the Tories. I think if the Labour government was in, we would have a different situation in the UK right now.
Is it wild though that they have like Jaskaran Sandhu has been in prison for what 2 years and they still haven't really commented on that? Sick.
It's 6 years, man. 2 years. What the
Oh
fuck
no,
you
I
been
don't
for the
know,
last
dude. It's late at night. It's late at night. Whatever.
Whoa.
6 years. They still haven't
By
really.
India.
I'm just saying. That's they really don't care about much about this, do they?
It's like it's lip service. All they care about right now is a trade deal. That's all they care about. If it requires selling out Sikhs for a trade deal, the proof is in the pudding. They're more than happy to do that. This Tory government is. I think it would change drastically if the Labour is in.
I think Boris would have said something because he doesn't give a fuck.
Dude, Boris would have just like.
No, Boris is more than happy to sell the community, man.
I feel like
But he
Boris
said
out of.
whatever, man.
Randy thinks
Like
that Boris would have like flubbed about it, like, oh yeah, they did kill someone, but it happens.
what did Rishi? His name's Rishi, right? He came up with some acronym, Khalistani terrorists. I forgot what it was. And they're like these activities, increasing these activities in the UK, and you're like, what? The whole narrative is now that there's this whole Sikh community in the UK that there's this, just like Canada, they're saying there's organized terrorism, and it's like they're just changing the narrative, right? So the Tories are. It looks like they're in bed. It looks like they're in bed with, like I was just saying, looking for a trade deal. Right.
I think the Tories in the UK are totally compromised, like in a way that's like I can't think of any other political party that isn't this acting in a similar way.
Yeah.
All
On
right.
that note,
On that
on
note,
that serious note, and somber note.
On that note, we'll be subtracting a couple of segments here. Obviously, the finished product is not everything we talked about.
While we're editing,
we've never done that
edited on
before.
the show?
Jehan,
Can you guess what got removed?
Jehan.
Can you guess what got removed?
Can you fill in the blanks? Fill in the blanks.
All right, boys.
AI, just Garn's voice, and anything he wants edited out has to be Jehan.
100%. It's his face. We do it all.
Yo, man, I've been seeing some like AI improvements in video and stuff. It's insane where we're going.
That's actually scary. That's actually scary.
That's scary.
Dude, people are going to become millionaires by just letting these bots work for them. All right. All right, boys. Have a good day. Randy on the top left, Jaskaran on the top right. We're going to just swap names today just for shits and giggles. Can you figure out who's who? I've been paying attention to Twitter.
I'm going to get some calls from CNN.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one, boys. Peace.
Okay.